Okay, we are live. Music start. Well, welcome everyone to a new episode of Women's Empowerment Series. I am so delighted to meet you again. We have already some beautiful faces joining us on YouTube. Hello, everyone. We are live streaming on LinkedIn as well and Facebook. So as you're joining us, say hello. Let us know where you're connecting from. I have an incredible guest, beautiful and special guest, and I'm so excited to welcome Lauren Jane Heller, connecting from Montreal, Canada. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Me too. But your story is even more fascinating because Lauren is originally from South Africa, and a beautiful journey that took you to become such an incredible reference in leadership as a leadership coach, and today as a spiritual teacher. So it's really exciting to have you join us. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. What brought you to become a leadership coach, and what's your fascination about leadership?
Okay. So I am, you can also call me LJ. So Lauren or LJ.
LG.
I've had a very, I guess, I like to think it's not that unusual, but whenever I talk to people, it's like, oh, I've had an unusual path landing where I have. I started my career. I mean, I knew since I was a small child that I was going to be a writer. I have been a writer since I was really little. Like I think my mom's given me copies of the first little books that I wrote when I was like 3, 4, 5. And so I knew that writing was going to be a part of my life. I've always loved performing. I love being with other people. And I had, a really amazing, it was kind of luck, and I made it happen. When I was 17, I worked at a bookstore and I earned enough money to pay half of, basically I said to my dad, if I pay half, can I do my high school biology credit in Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands?
Wow.
And so when I was 17, I got to go to the Galapagos Islands. I got to go into the Amazon rainforest and be with the animals and learn about biology, learn from the local indigenous people about the plants and the trees and the life in the forest. And that moment for me was like, I have to share this with the world. And I couldn't believe that people were cutting down the rainforest. And so I decided that I wanted to save the rainforest, and I was going to do that through documentary film and writing books. And that was sort of the beginning of this very meandering career.
Wow, wait, because this is like a very incredible beginning. I'm going to say hello to Horia. Join us. Hi, Horia. It's good to see you with us. Abdurrahman as well. So people are saying hello. This is incredible because wait a second, because when you're 16 and 17, you have to be super advanced and a little genius in where you are to actually decide that you're paying for your own trip and do it, not just decide, but actually pay for it.
Well, so one of the things that, my husband and I joke about this all the time is that I'm a person who, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'm often surprised that other people don't do as much as I do, or haven't. I recognize now I just turned 40 this year, and I've lived a lot of life in 40 years.
Yeah, because but you know what you just said? It's like the number one trait of a leader. If you want to be a leader, you have a word that is so unshakable. It's like your word is gold. It's like bigger than a contract, bigger than a signature. And you own that since you're 16 and 17, which means you've born a leader and you know it and you do it.
I did. And when I was younger, I was trying so hard to conform that it didn't work because it felt unsafe. When I was living in South Africa, it felt unsafe to stand out. I went to an all-girls school. Things were very structured a certain way, and I was an unusual child and very strong-willed and very creative, and I had
And
to
very
learn
smart.
to sort of cover
Shy
my
to
light
like
up.
hide it. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
because it
You know,
didn't
like,
feel. Yeah, I
mm,
was a year young for my grade, I was the smallest child, I was super like, I was getting really good marks, I was generally ahead of the curve with all of the
yeah.
things that I tried to do, and it's not
Mhm.
a great way to make friends,
Yeah,
so
because they're
so I
like, she's
learned.
too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I was too much. That was a lot of my childhood was me being too much and then
Mhm.
learning through a lot of my path of getting away from because I learned how to be an overachiever perfectionist really, really effectively. I did
Mhm.
really well in school. I did really well in anything I applied myself to, which it also gave me the confidence to do things like I'm going to work in a bookstore after school so that I can get enough money so I can go on this trip. And that was sort of my teens, my late teens, and most of my early 20s, but even after we had kids, because I had my elder child when I was 25, which was not
Wow,
planned,
that's
but
very old. That's very young. And are
yeah,
they as
yeah.
are they like
Pardon?
you, sharp and fast? How are
Uh,
your
yes, April is very sharp, very fast, way stronger boundaries than I've ever had.
ah, good.
Extremely creative. Yeah, quite a negotiator. I'm really excited. It's amazing watching this child blossom. And I've learned
So
so much from them. They're non-binary, so they were biologically female. So
mm,
as a little girl, April was a little dynamo,
mhm.
really nonstop. And is really coming into this beautiful period of exploration and like figuring out who they are and I also feel lucky to live in a city like Montreal where we
Where you
have
can let them
the
be.
openness to just let my kid be whoever they want to be. And they're at a school where they're getting a lot of support
Mhm,
to be who they are, which feels
mhm,
super good as a parent.
mhm.
But I think I lost my train of thought, but
No, so no, that's not fine. We were walking you way through
yeah,
your being a kid, a genius, actually high IQ, and leading yourself into your passion, which was rainforest and helping trees and the planet, really, because that's
yeah,
how it starts. And so,
yeah.
how did you transform that into becoming what you do today?
So I guess the short-ish version is I knew that I wanted to change the way that people see things. I
Mm,
knew that and one of my gifts has always been um, revealing the things that people know and helping them to actually know it. And so a lot of the time people like we're so up here in kind of the content of what's going on
mm,
that we can't actually see what's really happening underneath. And
mm.
that's one of the things that I've always been able to get into or to see. And I think there's a level of vulnerability there too. When I was 18, I got really sick as a teenager.
Mm,
And when I was 18, I was actually off school because I was unwell, but I'd had to write a play I went to an art school. So I
mhm,
wrote a play for my playwriting class and it was for me. I wrote it. I came home. It was my first love, my first boyfriend.
mm.
And I came home from being at his house one night and I needed to write about what I was feeling and what I was going through. So I wrote a one-act play and then I
Mhm.
took a playwriting class and we had to submit something. So I
Yeah.
submitted that play and I actually ended up winning a competition and it was produced professionally.
Oh, wow.
But the thing for me, like the feedback that I got was that they could feel
The
what I was
emotions.
saying, like the authenticity
Yeah,
of what I was translating, and
because it was
that for me
real.
is why I believe I'm actually a really good coach, and, like, what makes the difference when I work with people is I
You
guess I've
feel.
always been able to really channel how I feel and then translate it into words that land with people.
I love that. That's a gift, actually. It's
I recognize that because it's also, when you're good at something a lot of
yeah,
the time, and I work on this with so many of my clients, when something comes to you naturally, you don't recognize that it's
no,
actually special. You just think it's normal.
yeah,
So for a lot of my life, I didn't recognize that my ability to translate people's lived experience into like
into
concrete
word. Yeah.
words
Uh,
is really helpful for people.
it is, because a
Um,
lot of people don't know how to express that,
yeah,
because you know it very well. I mean, the side of the brain that has emotions is not the same side of the brain that has a dialect and and language. So
yeah.
that connection, you have to be able to know it. When did you feel that you had this gift? Was it when you wrote that play, or did you know at that time,
I
or
think it was
did it
always, if I feel back into like what just jumped out at me was, so when I was still living in South Africa, from the primary school to the high school, it was the same school that I was going to, but everyone had to write entrance exams. And then
okay?
a certain number of people who wrote the entrance exams were invited to write the scholarship exam. And
Mhm.
so I was invited to write the scholarship exam. And part of the scholarship exam was a story that we
Mhm.
had to write. And the story I wrote was actually published in the school magazine.
Wow,
And my
incredible
mom was good
achievement.
friends with the English teacher, and that was something that I think was reflected back at me a lot when I was a kid, was my ability to tell stories, write stories. I mean, I'm also the kid who, when I was 10, I wrote the script for Hansel and Gretel and made my friends perform it at my birthday party. Um,
Good.
so like it's just always been there. It's always
So
been
you could have
who I
been a
am.
movie director if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could have. I actually really enjoyed directing. That was one of the parts when I studied, because I studied communications after
Yeah.
I did an English literature degree, and then I studied communications, and I loved directing. I didn't
So
love
that
editing
your
so much,
path
but that
could have that path could have taken you to Hollywood
it
and not
could have,
been.
if that was where I'd wanted to go. I also loved acting, so there was a big phase in my life where I was like, "Am I going to become an actress? Am I going to perform?"
Yeah.
I did costuming when I was at university as
Wow.
well. One of the
Yeah.
things that I love making
Yeah.
things.
Mhm.
And well, and then I unexpectedly got pregnant when I was 25, and I had my first child, and that sort of redirected things in certain ways because um, I mean, so much of what we've done has been, it just changed the trajectory really of how
Yeah.
I've lived my life. And we still had adventures and traveled and did all sorts of fun things, but I didn't pursue the
The
relentlessness
crazy
of
potential. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because I mean, it's also how do you choose? And I think that that's one of the
It
things
is. Mm.
that I like finding my way into coaching and some of the deeper spiritual work that I do with my clients, with people. It kind of feels like there could have been so many different paths that
Mm.
probably would have brought me to the same place.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
a very good point.
yeah,
Yeah. Because ultimately we end up doing what we are destined to be
yeah,
and to become. And that's just a journey, right? Your journey could change. I
yeah,
love that. So it's
yeah.
actually a blessing, that the child's come early and you started this
Mhm.
journey early.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean, from where I was to where I ended up, like I never would have imagined that I would work. I mean, I didn't know what venture capital was, and
Mhm.
then I fell into the tech world. I worked as a journalist. I did some marketing work. I did a lot of different types of things when the kids were little, and we went on a road trip to Mexico for 4 months when April was a baby, and then we went to South Africa 2 winters in a row. We kind of skipped out on winter for a few years when the kids were
Uh-huh.
little,
Uh-huh.
and then when I fell into tech, and then I got to write articles about conscious ways to run businesses or how entrepreneurs could succeed, it was like completely different from what I imagined I'd be doing,
Mhm.
but still that sort of energy of like we can do things differently. We don't have to conform to the status quo. We can make the world better, whether it is in as a teacher or as a leader of a business.
Or whether it is as somebody working in the forest, as an environmentalist,
Yeah,
or as a
yeah,
business, we
yeah,
ultimately have the same impact that you can create on the planet. And that's a
exactly.
beautiful transition to, would like you to talk more about, you are today calling yourself as a spiritual teacher, but also spiritual leadership coach. So how do
Mhm.
you combine that? You
Yeah.
said you were in the tech. How will you come to a tech CEO or a startup or a business owner and you like tell him about, spirituality and is important? What
Well,
would that
so
what would
it's funny
you
because there's still a part of me that is like, "Ooh, calling myself a spiritual leader, that feels really big."
feels big? Yes, it
And then
does.
I've had people call me that, and it's like, "Oh, I can actually own this, that this is the work that I do with people." And kind of going back to the language piece and translating experience for people, what actually happens a lot of the time when founders come to me, or most of my work so far is referral based. When people are introduced to me, we talk about what's going on in their business and what they want to create and how they want to get there.
Mhm.
But underneath, I mean, the work that I do with people is helping them to get out of their own way.
Yeah,
And a lot of that is about mindfulness. It's about
it
conscious
is.
leadership.
Certainly.
It's
Mm.
about bringing yourself into recognizing, how am I showing up here? Can
Mm.
I step away from this paradigm that so many of us have lived in, of competition and
Yeah.
reactivity and winning and ownership and domination, and into a much more free, creative, open, collaborative space and way of leading, which
Mm.
underneath it, it's all about mindfulness. It's
It
all
is.
about connecting with yourself, connecting with what's here, seeing things as they really are,
Mm.
learning how to sort of peel away the layers of mental models and social programming and childhood trauma and
And
all of that
patterns that
stuff.
you have.
Yeah,
Mm.
and get through those patterns and rewire them and create new patterns, and then also see what else is here. And that's, for me, I was, because of just the way that things worked and having kids younger, and then my husband went back to school, and then I became the breadwinner, I put a lot of pressure on myself, like
Mhm.
so much pressure on myself.
I can feel that, yeah.
And
Mm.
and then I burned out. And so I was working in venture capital, this amazing job, very
Being a
like
mom.
visible role, super mom. People also like love to give you these titles, and it's like, she's young and she's beautiful and she's got these amazing kids and this amazing relationship and she's got this
Mm.
amazing job, and like so much
Too
pressure.
many responsibilities to carry. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
How
I
did
was in
you
my head,
yeah.
completely in my head,
Mhm.
no access to my emotions,
Yeah,
no
because you can't,
access
you
to
don't
my
have time.
feelings.
You're like, you have to do
Yeah,
the next thing. Tick, 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 tick.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very
So it's like in
masculine
that
energy.
mode, living for the future, and
Mhm.
then I burned out, and that was, for me, was the tipping point of, "Oh, maybe I've been successful in spite of how
Yes.
hard I've been working, not because of it."
Mm.
And my beliefs, the belief I had that I had to be perfect, that I had to do things better than other people, that I had to prove myself, that I needed to be on a pedestal ultimately, that was creating disconnection from other people. It had me feeling like an imposter a lot of my life.
Wow.
And
Wow.
even though I was achieving, I didn't feel good. And so,
It's
yeah.
interesting what you said. You said something very, very powerful, which is about, you've been successful in spite of your hard work. And usually we feel like we are successful and from an outside, and I can see it from your outside. I mean, just you're smart, you achieved so many things, you've learned so many things, you worked so hard, so of course success is inevitable. Why do you Is it on a hindsight now that you say it, or is it from watching others? What brought you to really claim that as
It's
Mm,
both.
okay.
So actually, my spiritual teacher said this to me a number of years ago, and this was, I mean, I felt like I'd been like slapped in the face when he said it to me, because it was
Mhm.
just like, "Oh, yes, I have worked so much harder than I've needed to, because if I actually look at the best things that have happened in my life, most of them just showed up. I didn't actually have to work for them to
Wow.
come to me. They
Yeah.
came to me, and then I was open to the opportunity. And yes, then I did work, but did it have to be a grind? Did I have to like basically grind myself into dust
Mhm.
because I had this opportunity. No, I didn't need to approach it that way, but that was what I had learned. And so I think a lot of us are taught to work super hard, to actually work beyond our capacity. Not a lot, like most of us aren't taught to have boundaries. We're not taught how to manage our energy. And so we work way harder than we actually need to. And sometimes that hard work gets in the way of receiving the beautiful opportunities that come our way that you can't see because you're in tunnel vision, like, I have to get this thing done.
Yeah. I mean, I see when you say that. I mean, it's like when you're so focused on, what are you going to achieve and what's the goal that is very material and very concrete, because that's what we look for, then, you forget about just being ready to receive beauty or abundance, whatever, from somewhere else. But does it mean that, okay, we say it, and I'm also work with leadership and leaders, and the big question and the big thing is that success is not about working hard. Success is about what you feel when you do things. It's not even doing more things, it's just what you feel. And this what you feel, I mean, you said it as you were really telling the story, that is incredible, because I think you represent every woman, which is every mom, every professional and mother, and overachievers, because women are overachievers. I mean, there is so much excellence in the world of women that have reached high level degrees, high level successes because of the hard work. But the missing part is, do you need to burn out to wake up, or can you just change? And this is why we're doing these conversations. It's almost like whoever is watching us, Haria, other women, and it's like, you don't need to push yourself so much. There is a different way.
I believe that you don't have to burn out. You don't have to get to that place of complete, like, burn it all down, basically, in order to kind of crest that ridge. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't listen to, there are certain types of people, myself included, where it is trial by fire, and you kind of have to live it to be able to move through it. So I'm not surprised that I burned out, but I also know that there are a lot of women in the world who can choose to intentionally create their lives in a way that does not require pushing all the time. And a lot of this is getting out of your head and getting out of the overthinking loops, getting away from looking for approval and trying to have control, and believing that security comes from outside of you, and that you can actually create all of those things for yourself. And if you can source approval from yourself, well, then you're going to feel successful. And I'd say that probably is the biggest shift for me in terms of how I feel in my life. And then that confidence to go for it, to choose the path I want to take and back it with my life, to back it with everything I've got, because it doesn't matter what other people think. If I'm in it, and it's not about the end point either, if I'm in it because it's fun and it's fascinating and I want to learn about it, and I know it's going to be hard, but it's worth it. Like that, I think that's the difference. It's like, is the hard work a grind so that somebody can give you a medal and a gold star and a place on the podium? Or is that hard work fulfilling and setting your heart on fire?
Yeah. And if it is, that's fine. Yeah.
That's great.
If it is, that's fine. Because we are so programmed sometime at working hard. Just, you get a thrill out of it. But what's draining is when you don't know if that work is going to get you where you want to be. You don't know if that work you will receive the validation, you will receive the satisfaction that you're looking for. And that's what's really draining more than anything.
Yeah, well, especially if you're doing something that is draining already. So this is also where it's like, if you love what you're doing and you're working hard, it's probably going to give you, not probably, it is going to give you more energy.
Oh, yes.
If you're working on something you really don't like, and you're working to prove that you, are good enough to get the promotion, you're probably going to hate your work and hate your life. And when you get the promotion, you might even get to that place of like, I don't even want this either. what am
Yes.
I doing? Why am I jumping through these hoops? This isn't
Yeah.
how I wanted to live my life.
Absolutely. So, why did you call your work Shine Plus? What's the plus for, and why shine? What did you mean by
So
using?
shine
Mm,
is, I mean, going back to what I said before about feeling like I was too much, a lot of my life, I've always been aware that I'm a very shiny person.
yes.
Um, and I mean, I took advantage of this. I worked in nightclubs when I was at
All
university.
right.
It was a
You
good
did
way
it
to make
all.
money. Like the shine of just who I am and authentically being me. I was also the girl. I remember getting teased about this by my boss, but like I would show up. I worked at the W Hotel in Montreal. I'd show up in flats with no makeup on, and I'd make crazy tips in a nightclub full of women with like all the makeup and the
Yeah.
heels and the outfits. And
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm here to do a job. I'll be really nice and talk to people and have a good time. And that was that. Um, and so I think for me, it's about like having the courage to shine, and then to help the other people that I work with to also have that courage to stop making yourself small and stop dimming your light and to really shine in whatever way feels
Oh, yes.
authentic and good for you. Um, and
Yeah.
actually took me a while to figure out what to call my business.
Uh-huh.
And I was working with a coach who, one of the exercises he did with me was essence words. And
Uh-huh.
so I interviewed a bunch of people from my life and asked them questions. And then he compiled what they said and presented me with these words. And
Wow.
some of the words he gave me were joy, brilliance, and radiance. And we often talked about how shiny I was. And so it just felt like, okay,
It's the right
this
name for you.
feels good for the
Mhm.
business. The plus came. Actually, I ran a program called Shine, and then I had my alumni the women who were in that, it was a 6-month program, also with travel. So we had a retreat at the beginning, a retreat at the
Nice.
end, like
Mhm.
really beautiful connection. And they asked for another, like they wanted to keep
Part
going.
two. Yeah.
So I created Shine Plus, which was
Mm,
the alumni program.
that's
And then I
nice.
realized that actually Shine Plus is the whole community. This
Yes.
is
Mm,
all of the different ways that we can work together. This is women empowering each other. This is women
yes.
showing up authentically together. Um,
I
and it
love that.
felt really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, it feels like it's women giving the space for each other, for so that everybody can shine. And
Yeah.
when you like the shine plus, it's like I shine plus you shine plus you shine, and it just everyone, there
Yeah.
is space for everyone. And I think you're representing that so beautifully, Lauren, LJ, for the work you do, and
Thank
and
you.
you're embodying it, because we the way this work is so important to just raise awareness, and to make women feel that yes, you can be overachiever, you can be smart, excellent, high IQ, genius. Don't hide it, and don't overdo it to look for validation
Yeah.
continuously from outside. What will be like the advice you can give to women watching us? Hi Ilham, it's good to see you. Women watching us who like, who feels sometime they're trapped in needing to work so hard, because it becomes a trap, isn't it?
Yeah. I
Mm,
think that the first thing that I would say to every single human is to stop thinking so much, because
mm,
we have a tendency to overthink things and also to believe our thoughts. And so this is where getting like slowing down,
mm.
being present with what's actually here, and then starting to get curious about, okay, this is the thought I have, or this is the way I see this situation. Is it true? And maybe think of what's the opposite of that. And is it equally as true? And once you can start really actually kind of breaking down the way that you think about things, that's when you can start to reprogram those beliefs that you have that maybe have you working really, really hard, or saying yes when you mean no, or doing the things that you don't want to do in your work, in your life. And for me, that's a first step of, okay, can I really bring myself here? Can I get clear on what's actually happening here without psychologizing it and overthinking it? And then I can take action once I have that clarity. rather than jumping into the thing because there's a monkey mind part of me that's like, oh, I have to do this, or this terrible thing will happen. It's like, well, is that actually true? And how can we start having more compassion for ourselves too, and be nicer to ourselves when we have those thoughts, so that we can actually get clear on, oh, you know what? I'm not going to focus my energy on fixing things. I'm going to focus my energy on creating what I want and how I want to live my life.
I love that. This is such beautiful, beautiful saying. And, we dropped your link for Shine Plus, whoever wants to come and shine along with all the incredible women that shines with you in your programs. And I think this is such a beautiful, beautiful, inspirational way of ending this conversation, is that, there is space for everyone. Don't overwork yourself. Let yourself be, enjoy every part, every time, in every present moment. And, this is what it means. It's like, just be present. Don't be completely blind about where you're going. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lauren, for this beautiful.
It's been a pleasure.
It is. And discovering an incredible woman. So thank you for being so incredible and for sharing your wisdom and your beautiful experience. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Bye.